people can't digest the complexity of what I'm saying, because I'm saying a lot of subtle, nuanced things that are very detailed. I'm thinking about a lot of layers on how it all works, because that's just the kind of person I am, right? Spilled too much in there, and she thought I wanted that much, and she said through the translator, "You use too much soy sauce." She'll prank me by going past my hotel room and then ordering a bunch of breakfast food for me, like 10 pancakes.
Now, coverage you can count on. Bringing you videos from the event floor. You're watching convention coverage.
ADR director, and I've done a bunch of other stuff. I'm a musician. If you guys follow my Twitch, you see me doing all kinds of weird stuff on my Twitch, because I like doing weird stuff, to make you guys laugh and stuff. And I'm happy to be here in beautiful Sacramento again. I haven't been here for a couple of years. I drove up from LA, and it was an awesome drive, and everybody's showing up, and the fan love and support has blown my mind, so much so that I figured out what you guys did during the, which is still going on, is that you all binged Dragon Ball, didn't you? Which is evident to me by all the fans showing up to meet me. So it's really, really, really nice, and I really appreciate it. So without further ado, I think we'll open up the floor for some questioning. If you guys want to do that, I think we're going to go ahead and do the system they have in place, right? Which is to have a line of people by the mic. Hello. You can come up.
Okay,
yeah, you're there. You're there. You're there. You won. First place.
Woo. Hello.
Hello.
So if I remember correctly, I was at the panel that you were at, the last SacAnime, or one of them at least.
Where was I at?
The last SacAnime that you were here at.
Oh, the last SacAnime.
I think
I thought you said the last
ago.
Saturday. Yeah, go ahead.
No, not last Saturday. I thought maybe you had said that you were a French horn player, so you have classical music experience, and I was going to ask, how has that influenced your voice acting?
Well, first of all, I brought my horn with me, and I was playing it in my room this morning. And I played it in my room last night. So if you hear some horn concertos that are bothering you, feel free to knock on my door and tell me to knock it off. And I don't play at concert levels. I just try to play quiet, which is hard to do with the horn I have because it's really powerful. But yeah, French horn, being a musician, a classical musician, there are many elements of the discipline of classical music that translates well to dubbing, especially. Sense of timing, a sense of rhythm, a sense of pitch. And it also translates to acting in general. I mean, there are a lot of famous actors who also are professional musicians, you know. How many, Johnny Depp's in a band, Keanu Reeves is in a band, they're all, and I started out in music and then went into acting. So when I had my audition, it was very easy. The mouth movements on the screen were like the conductor, and then the how to say things were like pitches, and it was just about translating emotions into pitches that would make sense for what the character is saying, which is a process in itself. So yeah, I would say that 80 to 90% of my classical music training, because it also tunes your ear to be very sensitive to a lot of different things, which is why I get weirded out when people are like, that voice sounds like that voice. I'm like, they're totally different. Not giving myself credit for the fact that I trained to do this, and I'm constantly focused on it. So my sense of what's, the spectrum of what's different may be more refined than somebody who's just casually listening. I don't know. It doesn't vex me. It's just funny. And so, yeah, a huge percentage of it. In fact, when I was an ADR director in New York, we figured out that our best auditioners were musicians, musical theater people, and actors were actually the worst at dubbing. Now, that's not to say that they're the worst currently. They would start out being the worst, and then they'd eventually get good at it, because actors are used to being on a stage without any restrictions and being able to just act, And with dubbing, you're having to squeeze emotion into an amount of frames that you're seeing from a translation, etc. So we find that people who have a strong background in music do very well at dubbing typically if they also have a good voice and can act. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's a good question. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, I love the hat.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah.
First I want to say is thank you for being a big part of my childhood. Yes, appreciate it
Thank
a lot.
you.
And second, my question is that, were you ever familiar with Dragon Ball Z Abridged, like in the past 8 years? Have you ever heard anything about it?
No, I've never heard of it. No, of course I have.
Oh, I was gonna say. How do you feel about that voice acting?
Well, I think it's funny that people want my opinion on it, and I don't watch it regularly. I think the guys are very funny. My only issue has always been the fact that I don't agree with the way America's kind of just, people get mad at DCMA strikes, and I'm a big believer in copyright protection. So, if Toei and Akira Toriyama come out and say, hey, we like this, we want to support it, then I would support that. But the way I look at it is they're very talented, creative guys who are stealing art and then appropriating it for their own purposes, which, you know, they don't mean it that way. They're nice guys, but,
Yeah.
you know, I just, it puts me on the spot to be asked this question, honestly, but it's okay. And people think I have some like hatred, and I don't. I just, if I created a show and then someone was using it and redubbing it and using my work, I'd be really upset about that.
Yeah.
Like I don't, and Americans think they're entitled to some kind of fair use, and they don't realize that countries have other copyright rules. And it's also very difficult for those countries to sue in America. And this is why Disney is so litigious, because on the one hand, you're like, why are you being so litigious, Disney? On the other hand, it's their stuff. They have a right to control it, you know what I mean? So how would you feel if you created like this great thing and then everybody's just using it up on YouTube the way they want? In fact, I'm personally vexed by the fact that people will use my panels or things I say to make YouTube videos out of that are maybe seen controversial to make money off me.
Yeah.
I think it's disgusting, honestly. It really bothers me. Like, why are you, and it's become the norm in America. So if I say some soundbite on here, like for example, in one video, some guy's like, Sean only thinks Akira Toriyama's opinion matters. And I'm like, that's not true. I love the fact that you like Dragon Ball, but the only opinion that really matters to me is Akira Toriyama. Why? Because he invented it. I mean, are you gonna tell me? So if Akira Toriyama's like, Sean, you're great, and then they're like, you suck. I'm like, cool, well, he thinks I'm great. But if he thinks I suck and you think I'm great, I'm like, well, I guess I shouldn't do this anymore because he's the guy that created it. And so it blows my mind that people will not take the time to empirically think about things in a much more layered and detailed way and then ascribe something to me that has something to do with my personality that isn't true to make me look bad, to make money off me. It makes me want to throw up, honestly.
Yeah.
So when I get asked questions like this, it puts me in a space of being, you know, extraordinarily uncomfortable. But it's okay. I mean, I don't blame you. But I'm just like, I would never do that. I would never, you know. People say, well, Sean, you write parodies. I'm like, I do. I also download karaoke tracks and pay for them. And then I tried to post it, and they put it down. And so I'm like, that's fine. I paid for the track, but you can't say I can't use it. It's your work. I respect that. So that's kind of, you know, you can be funny and creative. I'm also kind of a snob about creativity, because I've noticed since YouTube came out, a lot of people think being creative is taking somebody else's shit and chopping it up and doing that. That's not creativity. When you stand on someone else's creativity on the shoulders of giants, you're not making up something yourself. So my challenge to anybody who wants to redub Dragon Ball and make it funny, hey, I got an idea. Make your own cartoon. See if you can do that, because it's way hard. And you know how I know that? I bought part of a company recently, and we're making our own cartoons, and it's really hard. I directed two motion comics over the pandemic that my friend Garrett Gunn wrote, and we were working creatively on how to make this a show that works really well. You know, making your own original stuff is way harder than just saying, hey, here's something popular I'm gonna riff on. And I don't respect it. I mean, I respect it from the perspective of the joke's funny. Just like when I write a song parody, I'm taking original music, and the reason it's funny is because I'm riffing, and you know, I did a song called On the Wings of Lunesta set to On the Wings of Love, which I think is funny because it sounds like that commercial, right? And Weird Al Yankovic does this, right? But Weird Al Yankovic wouldn't be as funny if he didn't have the source material to stand on, which is why he records everything from scratch so he doesn't get in trouble. So it's a double-edged sword. I love creative people like that. I think they're very creative in some ways. But on the other hand, true creativity, when you're coming up with something original, that's another ball of wax. And I tend to respect that way more than the other, even though I riff on parodies and stuff. And I chastise myself going, you know, if I were truly creative, I mean, I like to think of myself as a creative guy, but if I were truly creative, I'd be making up my own shit, and I don't. You know, I act characters, you know, that they present the writing for, and then I breathe life into them. But I'm not sitting there working with Akira Toriyama or any other anime I work on and, you know, figuring out all the spec of how we're gonna do stuff, which is a much more involved creative process. So I didn't mean to riff for so long, but that's a big subject that's been asked to me for like 20 years. And it's an innocent question, but it's also a vexing question for me because, you know, when you get asked a question over and over, you're like, well, I'm gonna explain it because people are out there taking my stuff out of context and then lying about me and making YouTube videos off of it. And I'm just like, come on, you guys, have a little respect. And I think a lot of people can't digest the complexity of what I'm saying, because I'm saying a lot of subtle, nuanced things that are very detailed. I'm thinking about a lot of layers on how it all works, because that's just the kind of person I am, right? That's just how I think about that. And you know, I don't want to chastise somebody who doesn't do that, but I would implore people to think more deeply about what you're consuming and if it's okay and how it affects the ecosphere versus just, hey, I like this and it's funny, you know what I mean? So that's the answer to my question. Hope it wasn't too long and boring.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that. Thank
You're
you.
fine.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
Okay, so comparing yourself from the start of Goku to now, like, would you say like the Goku voice just randomly pops out whenever now, or
The Goku voice pops out what?
like Like, because obviously you've done Dragon Ball for so long, so I'm just wondering if, like, randomly in any conversation or anything, the Goku voice just pops
Oh
up.
yeah, the Goku post pops up usually when if I'm at my dog, if I'm doing karate, anytime I mean, there's never a time where I'm chill, happy, Sean, that I talk to my girlfriend. I'm like, hey, Bree, get me a pizza. Like I don't do that. But I'll be playing Destiny and I'm like, ah, damn it, you know, or whatever. And all of a sudden, Goku's screaming about Destiny because that game is so confusing. What do you do on Destiny? I don't know, but I'm still playing it. So yeah, it does pop out sometimes. What I'm astounded by is how many people, I'm so married to Goku in my voice, which I love. I mean, I appreciate that people think if they can hear any hint of Goku in any other thing I do, it's Goku in that role. And so I'm doing the show called Monkey Kid for Lego, and I'm playing the Monkey King. And it's just my natural speaking voice, just I'm talking like this. And people are like, oh, it's Goku! And I'm like, are you not listening to what I've been doing for It's not the same, right? And I appreciate that, but I appreciate that the impetus comes from the fan love. But my actor ear and my voice acting ear is like, but it's so different, you know? It doesn't bother me. Or when I voice a voice that's totally different, like when I did the Crystal Beast Mammoth as Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I was like, get to the chopper, right? They're like, Goku's the Crystal Beast Mammoth. And I'm like, I'm doing an Arnold Schwarzenegger impression, you guys. Am I not a very good voice actor? What's going on? No, it's fine. So yeah, certain voices pop out. I love doing, I do voices all the time. I do voices so much that I offend people because if you have a unique voice, I will probably do an impression of you instantly. And a lot of people get offended by, one of my closest friends, I've been doing an impression of him since 1985. And every time I call him, I always talk to him as him, and it's like a spot-on impression, so it always sounds like he's talking to himself. And we have this long-running joke. So I will constantly do, I don't even know why I'm on this tangent. You're just looking at me like I'm crazy. But everybody looks like they hate me because they have a mask on. They're just like, all right, that's a great question. I hope I answered it. Sorry, I'm a little tangent.
Hi, Sean.
Hey, how are you?
I just wanted to ask you about some of the other shows you worked on. I just wanted to know what was your experience working on Ninja Turtles and Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds?
Ninja Turtles and Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds are probably some of my favorite shows to work on. They started calling me the fifth Ninja Turtle because I was there. Basically, we would do sessions with the four Ninja Turtles, and then I was usually the guest bad guy. So I did like 40 or 60 voices on there. I was like Nobody and the Fire Mystic and Shokanabo and Constable Biggles and I'm the King of Thieves. I was the King of Thieves guy. And what was the other show? Oh, 5Ds. Oh, I like GX a little better than 5Ds because I like playing Dr. Crowler, but 5Ds was a lot of fun as well because I played Greiger and I played a bunch of other weird characters. That's when it was like at the end of 4Kids, kind of before Konami bought them, and they were just like, do whatever you want. Like they were very open to a lot of different crazy voices, which makes me happy, but apparently some people don't like that. So, so I really enjoyed working on both those shows quite a bit, especially Ninja Turtles, because that was a prelay show, so we would rehearse as a group of actors instead of dubbing it. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, a really great experience. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alrighty. All right, we have an axe murderer coming up. We have Jason. Hello, Jason.
Hello.
I'm gonna call you Chibi Jason because you're not quite as tall as Jason. No, I'm teasing. Because you're adorable. Like anyway, so what's your question? The most adorable axe murderer I've ever seen.
Thank you. So my question is, obviously the previous question touched a bit upon it. So
You're also a very articulate axe murderer, but go ahead, sorry.
Did some education after Crystal Lake. But one of my favorite roles you have done, technically for 4Kids, but really for a video game, was Black Doom from Shadow the Hedgehog. And I'm curious, what was the experience, if you remember it, getting cast and doing that voice?
I remember that particular voice because it was really hard, and I lost my voice. Because I'm talking
in a sub-frequency really loud for a long time.
And I had to do it for like 4, and that part of my voice is still damaged from Black Doom. It's still, luckily I don't have to do that voice very often, and it didn't affect my other voices, but you can damage like part of your voice.
Oh, yeah.
So I had to go see I went to a Chinese doctor, and he put like 2.5-inch needles in my head and gave me a bunch of herbs, and I had to record that game. It was about 14 hours over the course of a week. And it was part of the way through, I wasn't sure if I was going to finish the show of the game, and I was like, I need this gig. It paid really well, actually. And I was like, I need this gig because I got to pay bills, and I really don't want to lose my voice. And so I just kept working it, and I got through it, and finished the job. But I wish that game had done better because I love the concept.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it though. A lot of people like that game.
Yep.
That's kind of a sleeper hit.
Well, for all the suffering you went through, that voice will forever be one of my favorite Sonic villain voices.
Thank you. I appreciate that, man. Thank you for that. Thank you.
This is a question that I ask of a lot of different voice actors.
Right.
Say you are voicing a manga adaptation from a manga that is not finished yet. So the anime is like trying to play catch up.
Right. We did that on Z, original Z.
So as you are learning more about your character in the future from the manga as it is coming out, how does that affect your relationship with that character as you're voicing them in the past with the manga or the anime?
So let me see if I understand the question right.
Yes.
As the manga comes out, how does knowing what happened to the character future affect my performance as I'm working on it?
Yes. Or just how you feel about the character.
I can answer that question. I purposefully avoid looking at the manga for that exact reason.
Okay.
I am on my Twitch or Twitter at some point going to read some of the manga in character for fun from the Dragon Ball Super manga. I've been teasing this for months and I haven't done it yet. But I'm only going to go a little bit ahead. I like to experience, look, if you're a good actor, you got to be able to do both. You got to be able to know the whole story and then be in those moments and ignore that. But since I don't really have to read the manga to be able to perform, whereas if I were on a feature film, I'd see the whole script, right? And sometimes directors for feature films will keep actors in the dark on certain parts of the film to keep their psychology where it needs to be, because some actors can't help but be affected by the changes in their character. The interesting thing about Goku versus, say, another manga I might be working on that's an adaptation into an anime, is that Goku is a fundamentally, constant character in terms of he doesn't grow and change much, except in his fighting ability. And my theory is that because he's a metaphorical embodiment of the Monkey King and the beginner's mind, and he's the embodiment of Zen. So if Goku grows up and starts acting like Vegeta or starts acting like a proud Saiyan warrior, well, now we got two proud Saiyan warriors on the show, and we don't have this innocent Goku. And so I always try to keep him in a state of Zen, enlightenment, based relative to what the script says. You know what I mean? Like even for the Broly movie, I was really uncomfortable with the idea that Goku at the very end of the Broly movie was going to say, "Call me Kakarot," because he does not identify as Kakarot. And before I recorded the movie, I was pushing back all the time. But then we talked to Japan, and I really needed I really need to understand. I said, first of all, it needs to be in the Japanese script. Secondly, I need to understand why he's doing it before I'll do it, even though technically I should just do whatever they say. And if they do, I will. I mean, keep in mind, at the end of the day, if the producers come in and go, you have to do this, I got to do it. But I always push hard to make it as I'm always jibing for Akira Toriyama's vision, and I never get to talk to him. So, if you don't read the manga, how can you do that? I'm like, well, I'm relying on the raw translation. I'm relying on the adaptation, and I also insist on raw translations in the booth because I'm very particular about language. And so I'm looking at that translation and looking for the meaning of it, and trying to find ways to imbue more of that into what the adaptation says, because I'm trying to keep. And the reason I respect Akira Toriyama's vision so much isn't necessarily because he's a genius. That's part of it. It's because I believe in respecting artists. Period. So that's why I don't like it when a guy writes a book, Philip K. Dick writes a book, and then they ruin it in the movie. It's so offensive to me that some other arrogant ego can come in and go, well, this will be better for the fans. And sometimes it is, I suppose. But so when I go to restaurants and it's a dish that I know has something on it I don't like, I'll eat it once the first time to respect the chef, because he's thinking about food all the time on a professional level that I'm not. And so 9 times out of 10, I will be pleasantly surprised with the original dish. And after I've had it several times, I'm like, okay, I'm finally gonna put steak sauce on this steak, and I know that offends you, but at least I ate it 5 times without steak sauce, right? Like, I'm a big believer in respecting that. So it's a complicated, Goku's a complicated character because he's extraordinarily simple and extraordinarily pure, but also kind of deep. Because if you think about it, he was playing the long game with Cell and Gohan's power. He kept that secret for he's a very brilliant strategist. He doesn't know how to use a cell phone, and he doesn't know what kissing is, but Dragon Ball Super made that canon. So it's a fascinating and a difficult. People think it's an easy character to play. The hard part isn't necessarily the screaming, although that's a big part of it. The hard part is making a character stay interesting who doesn't really change much. And you'll notice when he's gone for a long time, he shows up and he's just glowing, and everybody's like, "Whoa, it's Goku!" And everybody's different. He's like, "Hey, I'm still the same. Everything's great. Let's have some food. I want to fight some strong people." He's very, and I love that about him. I love that about that character. So it's challenging, but it's been my life's work. I mean, that's what I care about. So that's a great question, deep question.
Thank you.
Thank you
for your answer.
Here, have a good one. Thank you. Hello.
So, okay, I got a interesting, or not a really interesting question. What's your favorite arc?
The weird thing is like, people ask me about arcs, and they asked me that for 20 years, and I'm like, about 5 years ago, I figured out my favorite arc was the entire Goku-Vegeta relationship is my favorite arc. They should call it, which is pretty much Dragon Ball Z, right? Mm-hmm. So my favorite arc is you could say that you could roll that up into the Majin Buu episodes because that's when Goku and Vegeta's power struggle kind of comes to the fore because Vegeta's cheating by siphoning that power off, and then he cold cocks Goku in the back of the head when Goku's like, "Come on, be good," right? And he's like, "I'm not gonna, bonk," and then leaves Goku to rot wherever he knocked him out. I forgot where that was, but what was the question?
What's your favorite arc?
Oh, my favorite arc, yeah. So yeah, and my favorite thing really of Dragon Ball right now is the last 3 movies in Dragon Ball Super. I really, really love the last 3 movies in Dragon Ball Super a lot, particularly Battle of Gods. I mean, Broly's just amazeballs, and it's kind of its own thing, but particularly Battle of Gods, largely because I had to play Goku and King Kai in a big, giant, long scene, and when Beerus shows up, it gets really interesting. It's the first time we see Beerus. The whole concepts in there were very curious and interesting, and then they get developed in Resurrection F and Broly. And so I'm very curious about Dragon Ball Super superheroes. I have no data other than what's on the internet. They don't tell me anything because they're afraid I'm going to tell you on this panel, which I wouldn't, but I don't blame them. They got to keep their IP secret, and I get it. They'll probably call me a couple of weeks before and go, "Okay, we're doing the new movie," and I'm like, "Oh, we are? Okay, cool." And then I'll just start prepping. Usually when I prep, I will start watching the stuff leading up to it or the stuff around it to get my vocal space in the right space and to get the energy and the attitude back. But if I had to jump in the booth and do it cold, I could because I've been doing the character for so long. I could definitely do it. But I like to prep, and make sure it's epic. I can't let you guys down. I can't. It's just, and I made that decision a long time ago. It's really weird. I don't have children, right? And somebody's like, "You're my childhood," and people say this all the time. "You're my childhood. You're my childhood," and it's really, really sweet. And then I thought about it. I'm like, yeah, that was kind of the plan. I made a conscious choice when I first got on the show that I would try to make sure I dubbed everything for kids because I hate it when they change the voice on stuff. And I was replacing a previous actor. I was playing Ian Corlett and Peter Columbus. I was replacing those guys who did a fine job. And I felt bad about it, but at the same time, I'm like, well, no, they're not here in Texas, and I auditioned and I got the part. And I didn't even know who they were until I got the part. And so, carrying that role on, my attitude was like, I want to make sure that there's an intergenerational, so that you have that comfort and that solace in that place when it hits the fan in your life. You know what I mean? Especially if you're a little kid and you're feeling sad and alone, and all of a sudden that anchor that you're hearing every day is now a different guy. I hated that so much when I was a kid. And I think it's so disrespectful to voice actors in general when it's done for the wrong reasons. Sometimes people die, and sometimes the company moves to Texas, like in Dragon Ball's case. But when you can avoid it at all costs, I don't believe in replacing talent unless you absolutely have to. And I feel that way because, while I have chosen not to have children for a number of reasons, even though I probably would like that, I didn't feel qualified to have kids until like last year in terms of my own mental ability to deal with kids. And then, I wanted to commit to something that would affect, kids forever. And so I look at all the Dragon Ball fans as my children, so to speak. And it was a plan I had from the get-go, but I just didn't know it would turn out this way. And so that's what blows my mind. So thank you. That's what really makes it, like my favorite part about being on Dragon Ball is this, right here, is like you guys talking to me about how it affects you, I mean, it's a legacy that I can be proud of when I'm on my deathbed. And it makes me happy to do it. So thank you for asking. I hope I answered the question. I can go on weird tangents. I'm sorry. Did I answer your question? If I didn't, I'll answer it.
You did. I wanted. Okay, so you and the last person asked a question. You said something about it being canon.
Being what?
You said something about Goku not kissing or not knowing about kissing being
Well,
canon?
in Dragon Ball Super, he very clearly says he doesn't know what kissing is about.
All right, as you as a voice actor, do you think all the Dragon Ball, like GT, the very controversial thing, do you think that's canon, or are you like, no, that's
I
not
think
canon?
whatever's canon is what Akira Toriyama says is canon, and Sueisha. You know what I mean? Like so they're taking elements of GT and they're putting it in Super, like Pan, etc. And I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm sure there's a Dragon Ball fan who's going to know this better than me, but I believe that Akira Toriyama did not create Bardock, but for the movie he retconned him and wrote for Bardock, even though I don't think he created Bardock back in the day. I'm not sure about that, so I may be wrong. And so once he handles something, in fact, they very specifically told me for the movie, ignore old Broly, we're not going to focus on the old movies, that canon's over, only focus on the new Broly, and we're going to rewrite the story. And they very specifically told me not to, to focus on that, because they're trying to, from what I can tell, they didn't say this, what I'm trying to tell, they're trying to solidify the canon, and they're trying to make a thrust into Dragon Ball being a global, worldwide brand, and it is, and it deserves it. And I think there should be Dragon Ball theme parks everywhere. Like, there's enough story there, if you got 2 or 3 Disney parks or whatever, you can at least have a couple of Dragon Ball parks in there easily. And especially if you got a bunch of Six Flags parks. So I used to work at Six Flags when I was in high school, so I know the theme park world pretty well. And I think Dragon Ball is definitely a world brand, and they're very smart in trying to do that. I don't blame them. It's amazing, to be a part of it. It's crazy. Thank you so much. All right.
Hi. I just want to say thank you for everything you've done with Dragon Ball. I really love the show, the game, everything. It's amazing. It's made my childhood great. I know you said earlier you said you liked the last three movies you've been doing.
Yeah.
But which one out of the older ones were your favorite top one that you liked doing? Working
the
on
older
book?
school ones? Yeah. I love doing Lord Slug only because it was the first movie I recorded. The ones I remember that stand out are the Cooler movie. I'm trying to think of the other movies that stand out in my head. The old Broly movie stands out in my head only because at the very end he punches Broly in the gut and then twists his guts apart, which I thought was awesome. And I was like, wow, I remember that. But I would say the Frieza Cooler movies, that whole thing, because I like King Cold. I think he's funny. But man, it's been so long. I was 30 when I started on Dragon Ball, and I'm 52 now. So I got to compete with an 86-year-old Japanese woman. So and she's bad. So she's still got it after all these years. I hope I can scream like her when I'm 80, whatever. I plan to keep doing it, And my doctor's, my health was really bad the last few years, and I'm getting better. So my doctor is on my butt about, changing my diet and getting my immune system back to where it's supposed to be. So as I get older, I'm trying to be healthier and healthier. I lost 20 pounds during the pandemic because I can't eat anything. And I'm trying to get healthier and healthier as I look at my own mortality as I approach 60. I'm 52, and I'm looking at him going, wait, my mom's 72, and she's 20 years old. My mom's 20 years older than me to the day. We have the same birthday. And I'm like, wow, if I'm going to be in that shape I better start taking care of, I'm not going to be able to be Goku when I'm 72. And I'd have more than 10 years after that if I was going to keep up with Masako Nozawa. So it's definitely a tall order, but I'm going to do it. As long as my health holds out, I'm going to do it. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So you kind of started to answer my question just by mentioning the Japanese voice actress, but I want to preface this by saying that your voice is who I consider Goku. I've heard your voice for so long that it is what I think when I think of Goku. That being said, when you took over the role, did they show you the Japanese voice?
No.
Initially?
They gave me keep going. I'll tell you.
That was the first half. The other half was when you finally learned who the voice actor was in Japanese. What was your opinion of it? The fact that it was so drastically different from your version.
Well, the weird thing is it seems drastically different, but there are a lot of corollaries I've discovered having met her a couple of times. We never really had a deep conversation about it because she doesn't speak much English, and I don't speak any Japanese, so except for a couple words. And go back and rephrase the question because I had an answer and then I brain farted.
Terribly. It was two parts. It was when did you first hear her?
Yes.
And then what was your thoughts about it?
Okay, so first off, they gave me very little data on this character. And I was really pissed off because I'm an actor. And so I want in fact, I wish I could have had a conversation with Akira Toriyama the second I got the part, which I believe Masako Nozawa would have been privy to because I know he hand-selected her to play adult Goku when they were going to replace her from Kid Goku. And I asked her that question on a panel, so I know that's the right answer. Originally, I thought it was Japanese tradition. It is not. she told us on a panel that they were gonna, because women played little boys all the time in cartoons. The voices work really good for little boys.
Yeah.
And as they age out, usually almost always, it'll be switched to a man, which I take over for Stephanie Nadolny and Dragon Ball. Right at the end, when Goku's about 16, is when I take over, and I try to make the voice sound younger and more innocent, and then you'll see it kind of get deeper as I go on. I did not hear Masako Nozawa when I first started because we were dubbing to videotape, but they weren't playing the Japanese, and I didn't hear Masako Nozawa until after my first video game, and I'd been working on the show for a while.
Oh, wow.
And the only Dragon Ball dubbing I heard was occasionally we'd hear the Mexican dub because we couldn't get materials from Japan fast enough because it was further than Mexico.
Oh, wow.
And so they would call Mexico and go, hey, can we have your materials? And all we needed was videotape and the audio. We don't need their dub, but it happens to come with it. So they'd play it and be like, right? I don't speak Spanish, so I'm sorry. I hope I don't offend anybody. I speak fake Spanish. But that's all I heard. It's Dragon Ball Z, whatever. I've got to learn Spanish so I can be a Spanish radio announcer. But and so we would hear that, and then when I finally heard it, the one hand, yes, it does sound radically different from me. But the other hand, one of the things, as much as I don't take cues from her, I do think it's very important that if I'm channeling it for English-speaking audiences and she's channeling it for Japanese audiences and is being the original voice, that the fundamental things that translate should also be the quirky things about Goku. And there were a couple times I was interacting with her that I was very gratified because she was on a panel on stage before I was going to go on stage at Madison Square Garden in front of 8,000 people for the Broly premiere.
Ooh.
And it was incredible. And I don't remember what the question was. Someone asked her a question, and I was answering in my mind how I would answer it. And with her mouth, through a translator, she answered it exactly the same way. And it made me feel good because I'm like, all right, so I'm definitely thinking about this character right. I'm thinking that way. The other thing I do in voice acting, I'm getting a little chilly up here. The other thing I do in voice acting is I believe every character should have a unique laugh and a unique vocalizations for what they're doing. And so I tried to come up with a very unique laugh for Goku, and I had not heard that she does the that higher thing she does.
Yeah.
And I noticed that I have if you listen to my voice when I'm doing Goku, hey, it's me, Goku. There's a pinched, reedy quality to it.
Yeah.
Well, when she does it in Japan, it's a very similar reedy quality to her. It's like, yosh, watashi wa kondone. It's way up here. So it's in that same vein. And then she also does the very unique laugh. And so to me, while they sound radically different, they also have a lot of very similar parallels. And I think that comes from, and I'm just going to go out on a limb and say this, like I'm a pretty sciencey guy, but there's a certain amount of spirituality involved in voice acting, which may be explained with science someday. And, and I feel like the reason those things have happened that are coincidental is because we're both drawing on the same source material and channeling that spirit of Goku. And I think if all the Gokus from different languages got together, we would find, although our voices would probably be very disparate, there would be definite connective, energetic things and vocalizations that you would find parallels between the two because I think that's the power of that character. I think it's a very unique character and a very unique story, and I think Kira Toriyama is a mad genius, and that he's got that Midas touch. And when you're channeling that kind of character, whether it's Goku or James Bond or something that's that iconic or Superman, you're going to see corollaries between all the different guys that play James Bond because they're drawing on that source material and that energy. And so when I finally did hear Masako, while it sounded radically different to me, right away I was like, wow, it's so interesting that so much of this, and it's interesting about her, when you sit next to her on a panel, she's a very mild-mannered older lady, and then when she channels Goku, it just feels like this bubble of energy just pops out, like she goes like Super Saiyan next to you, and you can feel it. And it was a very spiritual, beautiful experience, and she was so gracious about sharing the Goku space with me as the guys doing it in America. And she said to me when she said, I saw you in the green room, I thought you were Goku. And I think she was talking about my hair at the time, because it was very big at the time. I don't think she thinks I'm Goku. I think at least that's what I got from it. I go, why would you think that? And I looked in the mirror, and I'm like, oh, yeah, it's my hair, I guess. Or maybe she just assumed it was me. I don't know. We haven't really spoken much. I'm so reverent of her. I don't sit down with her and go, I've had opportunity to sit down and go, hey, let's talk about Goku for a while through a translator. I don't. I've talked more to Piccolo and Ryo Horikawa than I have Masako because I just felt more comfortable. I just felt like I didn't have a right. It was really weird. I was just so I wasn't fanboying necessarily, but I was just like, I should just let her have space. I should not. But Ryo, I'll talk to, and I love her, but I'm just like, I just felt like I cannot go over there. And I had dinner with her and the other Japanese guests after the Resurrection F movie, and she was sitting across from me, and I put soy sauce in my dish for sushi, and I spilled too much in there, and she thought I wanted that much, and she said through the translator, "You use too much soy sauce." She admonished me for too much soy sauce, and I was just chuckling, like, you can admonish me all day for my usage of soy sauce, because you would definitely be the expert on that. And I just ate sushi with her and smiled. You know, it was great. So I really enjoyed those experiences with the Japanese cast. They are wonderful, and we also got to spend time with the animation team, who was amazing as well. So I hope that answers your question. It's a very good, deep question.
It did. That
and
was
maybe
very
you'll hear
enlightening.
those parallels now.
Yeah, that was very enlightening. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you.
Are you going to be on the next Dragon Ball Super movie?
I plan to be. I mean, they don't. They have told us they're not recasting. So, but they haven't called me to start work or anything. You know.
And how do you feel about the movie?
Well, I don't know about the story, but the premise and anytime there's a Dragon Ball movie, I'm excited to do it. I mean, usually in the last 3 movies, we've always had the experience of like going, what's this going to be about? And we're always very curious, and we really are in the dark to the last minute. Like the Broly movie was shocking to us. First of all, we didn't think they were going to bring Broly back, and secondly, what they did with it was completely mind-blowing to us. So we had no Dragon Ball Super superhero. I know it's maybe centered around Pan. I'm not sure. Pan's an element in it. And I don't know how the story's going to go at all. In fact, I won't know. They might get me a script a couple of weeks before. I had to watch Broly the night before I recorded it on an air-gapped computer in my hotel room because they wouldn't let me. Like, I watched it the night before, and then Saturday I woke up, went to the studio and recorded it, and then I recorded on Sunday, and then I flew home. So it'll be all hush-hush top secret until the movie's out, and then I'll be able to blab about it. So, but I expect to do it, so I'm excited about it.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Great question. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, you brought your hacksaw. Awesome.
Yes, I'm ready to
gonna hide
perform
my
surgery
limbs.
after this.
I'm going to just hide my limbs. No, go ahead. What?
Yeah, I just wanted to start off by saying, I used to sneak out past my bedtime as a little kid just to watch Dragon Ball Z on Adult Swim. I loved it.
Awesome.
So, yeah, just out of the way, I have one question for you. What was the funniest moment of all of your time with Dragon Ball Z?
Funnest or funny?
Funniest.
Well, some of those moments, I can't repeat in public because they're extremely funny and extremely R-rated. And some of those things, got leaked on the internet in an attempt to try to disparage me because of some other and that really bothered me because it wasn't about that. So let's see. Funnest moment? Funniest moment.
Yes.
Well, I can think of one. Oh, I can't. Man, I can't. I keep filtering them because I'm like, well, no, I can't say that. No, I can't say that. And then that's not that funny because like one time all these Namekians were popping up on the screen and I said, just roll the tape. And every time a Namekian popped up, I just went, and they just kept popping up. That was pretty funny. It was when they were popping up. Oh, I know. Here's a funny moment I can repeat. So remember when Goku, and we have this saved somewhere. Remember when Goku was sick and dreaming and he's up and he's in this like, in his mind, there's this blank space and he's thinking about all the people he loves and he's like, Gohan, Krillin, Chi-Chi, Yamcha. And then the faces start coming faster and faster, like, Poir! He's thinking about all the people he loves, when he's sick. I think it's with the heart virus, maybe. And at the very end, you see the planet blow up. It's like he's in this dream nightmare state, and he's like, and he's going, but basically it starts out like this. It's like, Gohan, Krillin, Chi-Chi. And then he starts listing everyone else, and then it climaxes with the planet blowing up. So in my outtake, what I did was, in the original script, it's just like groaning and like, Gohan, Chi-Chi, a couple other people, and then groaning, and that's it. But what I did is I said, let me say the name of every single person who pops up. And then at the end, I'm going to say Alderaan when the planet blows up. So it goes like, Gohan, Chi-Chi, Yamcha, Poir, King Kai, Krillin, Toma, and they're saying everything. I'm saying everything fast. Then at the end, it goes, Alderaan! That is recorded somewhere on Sabbath's phone somewhere. And it was hilarious. And that was probably one of the funniest things we did. I wish I could show it to you. I don't have it, though. If I had it, I wouldn't post it. But, all right, thank you. I'm running out of time. Where's my agent guy? Are we got 0 time? All right, I'm going to get this last guy with Venom, and then we're going to go, because there's probably another panel after this, right? Okay, sorry. Venom guy, hello.
Hi. Thank you for making my childhood really
You're welcome.
memorable.
Thank you.
What is your favorite moment behind the scenes of all time as Goku?
Favorite what scenes?
Favorite moment behind the scenes, like when you're like recording?
Well, sometimes it's like when Chris pranked me in my hotel room to make me think that people were magically putting things in my clothes. Like he snuck into my hotel room and stuck a kazoo in my pocket, as well as a bunch of other weird shit. And I was like, what's going on? And then I come into the studio and I went, someone's in my room. And then he was secretly recording my reaction to it, like pranking me. So he'll prank me pretty hard. That's pretty good. Or he'll prank me by going past my hotel room and then ordering a bunch of breakfast food for me, like 10 pancakes and 20 pieces of bacon and leave it on my door. You know, stuff like that. Like, you know, we'll prank each other. I mean, I wish I could remember. If Sonny Strait was here, he would have a good memory of some of our behind-the-scenes stuff. Passing out in the booth was pretty funny. Stuff like that. I guess that's all I got. I'm trying to remember something, but that's the best I can come up with. I wish I had something better for you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Hey, you guys, thank you for coming out and observing all the protocols. I appreciate it. You're keeping yourself safe and other people safe. I'm going to go back to my table and sign. And I appreciate you all coming out, and I'm happy to be here in beautiful Sacramento. Thank you so much.